We covered different types of triangles in the last video. We talked about the isosceles, scalene, and equilateral triangles. In this video, we're going to talk about three more triangles. Remember, triangles all need to have three angles, and all these angles have to add up to 180 degrees. And they also need to have three sides. And we talked about different types of triangles last video. Again, there's going to be a couple more that get covered in this video. So for example, we're going to talk about the acute triangle, the right angle triangle, and the obtuse triangle. And you can see that it's going to be, the word angles are going to be quite important for these triangles. So acute triangle refers that all angles within that triangle have to be less than 90 degrees. So for example, if we have two angles which are 70, so we might have 70 degrees here and 70 degrees here, and we have this one being, let's say, 40, then all the angles are less than 90, and if we add them all up, so if we say 70 plus 70 plus 40, if we add them, we have to be 180. So 70 plus 70 is 140, plus 40 is 180. So if we add them all up, it fits what it's meant to be, which is 180. So this case, this would be an example of an acute triangle, because all sides are less than 90 degrees and they add up to 180. This here is called a right triangle. So you see this symbol here means an angle of 90 degrees. So all right triangles have to have one angle, so not more than one. They only have one angle that's exactly 90 degrees. And we show that by drawing this kind of structure. This is a right angle. So you can see this has a right angle here, and that's why I call it a right angle triangle. It has one angle that's exactly 90 degrees. And the last one is something called an obtuse triangle. Obtuse triangle has one angle that is above 90 degrees. So remember, a right triangle has one that has exactly 90 degrees, whereas an obtuse triangle is one that is above 90 degrees. In this case, we have an angle here, which is obtuse, and the reason why that's obtuse is because that's above 90, because it's 140, and 140 is above 90. So if we were to try to find out what are these other two angles, we would know they have to be adding up to 180. So in this case, we would have 140. So for example, these other two, these ones here, could be, let's say, they could both be 20. So we have one which is obtuse, but that means the other two can't be obtuse. So it only has to have one angle that's above 90, because if we have 140 plus 20 plus 20, we add them up, we get 180, which is what we want. So we would not be able to have two obtuse angles, because that would be too big. We would not be able to get that number 180. So again, these are three angles, three types of triangles. We talked about isosceles, scalene, and equilateral in the last video, but this is an example of an acute triangle where all angles have to be less than 90 degrees. So this, for example, might have 70, 70, and 40, adds up to 180. This is an example of a right triangle that has one angle. It doesn't have to have more than one, just one angle that's exactly 90 degrees. And remember, we show it using this kind of symbol. This is a right angle. And this is an example of an obtuse triangle, because it has one angle that is more than 90 degrees. So 140, this would be an example of an obtuse angle, and that's why it's called an obtuse triangle. And in this case, we could say, for example, the other two angles would be 20, 20, because if we have 140 plus 20 plus 20, they add up to 180, which is what has to be the case. Right? So again, we need to know these three different types of triangles as well, and what their different angles are that they have to have.